takes, or are we?
No, I'm having you get the mic right.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, are you sure?
No. Talk.
I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh. I can sing the song if you auto-tune me. I can't remember the words.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah. All right. I just took 3 Viagras. Not really, I've never taken Viagra. How do I know it's the little blue pill? Because they fucking have marketed it so well. All right, we're gonna build some modular LBVs here, where I'm mic'd up here because we had a catastrophic failure with a Pelican case on top of somebody's car that was not mine, and it got left 4 hours from here. So I'm mic'd up, so if the sound's weird, that's what it is. I might look sweaty. I probably need to be powdered or something. It's because it's fucking like 200 degrees in here. Holy shit. You know the air's on?
Yeah, it's okay. You won't be able to hear it.
Oh, because the mic? Mm-hmm. Oh, all these years we've been fucking having no air conditioning or heating, and we could have just done this. All right. So this is a modular LBV. I've built a few of them. If you're on my live feeds, you know about that. I've built a handful of them and shipped them out to customers over the last week. I'm building a couple Coyote ones here. I've got one over here on the floor that's pretty well done, and I had some pieces, so I thought we would just show you this. This is the rig that I don't know if the other video will be up by the time this goes up. We did a video on a modular LBV showing all the features. There's a lot of features in there you might not think are there, so we did a video on that. And then Scully also did a video showing his loadout, Somalia, pre-Somalia, after Somalia, up into Iraq. So that is this rig. The platform, the pattern for the panel left and right are the same exact thing that we were building, what did you say, 28 years ago when you mathed that out? 28 years ago, that rig that Jeff had in the other video. So I'm gonna show you how I build that, and then you can build your own and you don't have to buy mine. Or if you're like me, I watch a lot of videos of people building shit. I'm like, that's fucking awesome. I could totally do that. I'll just pay that guy for it. So this is how I do my Molly or my Pals webbing, right? I've already got my marks made here. Let me show you. I'm gonna edge tape. We're gonna conceal a 1/2 inch of this with edge tape because we're using 1 inch tape. So 1/2 inch, and then my first space should be about 1.5 inches. And I know that if I take this ruler and I set it right on that line I've already made and just cover most of it and then run another one, my slots come out perfect, right? That's using a gauge. Your gauge, you can cut it out of plastic or wood or plexi, whatever you want to use it, make it out of, but that's how I do mine. And then I'm going to start my Pals webbing. Now your Pals spacing, your proper channels are typically 1.5 inches wide, so 1.5 inches, 3, 4.5, 6, right? And then your spacing. You can start your spacing wherever you want. I'm going to start mine because it works, because I put the buckles on. You'll see at the end here why. I started at 1 inch and then I tack this in. Now you can cut it off, or you can travel across. If you can travel across and your machine's tensioned properly, it won't pucker your work all up. You might have to just cut it though. And you can also, while I'm doing this, I'm kind of applying tension back here, which keeps the work somewhat stretched out so that it doesn't pucker and pull up. You can see how this pulls up a little. That's because it's tensioning it a little bit. Now I'm going to grab the shortest piece of 1 inch webbing. Normally I'll have a piece of 1 inch that's like 3 inches long to use as my gauge here. I don't happen to have one out here on the table. Now you can go, I'm right-handed. I like to sew with most of my work out here on the bigger part of the table, but as I move in, it's going to get to be an issue, right? It's going to roll up or it's going to be in the way. I use this giant light right here. I bought it a few years ago. LEDs, seems like every 90 days LEDs get better and better and better. I like a shit ton of light. I am very slow sewing out here in the dark because Brandel He's like a fucking artist, man. He wants to sew in the dark. I'm surprised we even have any lights on. But this light is a CNC machine light. This is a giant magnet that clamps and unclamps. This fucking thing was like $300 maybe, and then I put even a bigger bulb in here. So this will be in the way is what I'm saying. But you can start and go, you know, 1.5 inches, 3, 4.5. You can do it however you want. I'm gonna skip, especially if you're learning how to do this, it might be easier. When you set this here, I'm setting this on the edge, I'm just using this as my gauge, right? I'm gonna pull this kind of this way, and I'm gonna needle strike in here a couple stitches, and then I'm gonna tack it, right? And now it's in there. Now it's not gonna move. So I'm gonna put a good 3-4 lines of stitching in there, whatever you wanna do. And then here, because it's pulling, right? It's going to when you touch it. So I'm gonna pull that somewhat taut, and then I'm gonna pull this back into place so that the material lays flat. If you've ever put pals on, you're like, man, he's saying a lot of words to do this. But if you're not comfortable with doing pals, this will help you out a little bit, just these little tips. So same thing here. And while you're here, you can just go back and sew this other line if you want, or you can kind of set them. I saw a kid, or I always say kid, I saw somebody comment on one of my videos that went live the other day on a sewing video, and he's like, man, I built this thing all the way through and I forgot, I don't remember what he said. I had to take this whole project apart, and I'm like, dude, believe me, it happens to me like every other day. I'll have something completely together that I'm gonna sell for like 600 bucks, and I fucking totally can't sell it because I forgot this piece. And I sew with my stitches pretty small, and my tension is pretty tight, even though it's even. I don't want any of my stitches sitting on the top or the bottom. I want them to pull into the middle of the meat of the project. So what that means is when I go to cut this, I could very easily cut a piece of, important exposed piece of material. So I got a $600 project that I forgot to put a piece on. Do I cut it all the way apart and risk completely damaging it? What do you do, right? A lot of times it's easier for me to just start over. Now, there's also the issue of weight. We used to double all of these panels. All of our panels would be doubled front and back, and then we'd sew our pockets or sew our pals on there. It doesn't need it. Now, being doubled up, it was a lot easier to cut a project apart, and that's really, looking back, a lot of why we did it. It was because if there was a mistake or a warranty issue. We've never had a warranty issue where a pocket came off of a vest. We've never had pals come off of a vest, anything like that, unless it's got bullet holes, blood, or it's been melted somehow. We've never seen a rig come back in for anything like that. So I do these single layer. You could back it with 420 pack cloth if you want to. You could back it with 300. You do whatever you want to do. It doesn't need it though. Trust your materials. So I'm gonna go ahead now and just kind of rip through this. I don't really have a lot more pointers on how to do this, but let me show you kind of what this should look like at real speed. Now the leading edge on this is gonna be the top, right? The top edge is what's gonna be carrying the brunt of any weight or damage or tear or anything like that, any real stress where that malice clip locks in with the bar or webbing. I say malice clip, use whatever you want. For 15 years before malice clips existed, everybody zip tied them or 550'd them in place, cord out 550 and then put super glue on the knot. So the reason I'm saying that is I'm traveling upside down here, right? This is the top and I'm sewing this way. So when I come in, I go 1, 2, 3, and then I tack it a few stitches at the top to basically make it like 4 and 5 lines, because that's where it's going to, get the most, it's going to bear the most weight. Now, a lot of you guys will, especially if you're not comfortable doing this, any project really, whether it's putting on pals or whatever. When you're working right to left or left to right, you will find that you want to turn the work now, right? So this is the easy way. But what we've been doing is everything's traveling this direction. When you turn the work, no matter how good you are, you're going to see that row of webbing. It's going to be wavy. Your customer probably won't notice it. You will. So I just kind of go now and continue. I just fold the work up, and you'll have more room, right? I've got this big ass box right here. That's the magnet clamp on this. So and even with that said, you can see that I have not paid close enough attention while I was talking to you guys. You can see where it kind of is wavy. See how it kind of comes up right here and then comes down right here? Do you see it? Do you notice it, Randall?
A little bit, but not.
So now you can use your gauge right here, but if you just pull between these, as long as you've got this set and everything's flat here, I'm not even going to use a gauge. I'm going to strike about middle of the webbing, and I'm going to travel up and back. Now if I start all the way at one point and move it, it might shift, but if I'm in the middle, it's going to sit there. And then I'm going to kind of sew right across, and I'm pulling both directions as it comes up on this webbing. And then same thing here. Now, I will take and clip these because depending on the bobbin I'm using and the bobbin carrier, this bobbin carrier is a little out of whack. What am I talking about? Let me show you. Bobbin carrier. When you get these, now I don't know about you guys, I don't know what the market's doing nowadays. When you buy these, they come with this little flat spring in there. Almost inevitably, and when you put a new bobbin carrier in and you put your bobbin in there, it sews awesome for a few days. I mean, if you're doing hobby stuff, I mean, it might last you a really long time, but I mean, we sew a lot. So inevitably, something happens to that spring and it falls out. So we take just a piece of pack cloth, cut it, drop it in there. You will see all kinds of stuff. A lot of guys get a sewing machine, but what they don't have is a mechanic. And when you get around a mechanic, and there's different mechanics, man. You talk to the guys over at Collier, or we're very lucky to have some just amazing dudes that are somewhat local here. One of them actually lives in this town, and they fly him all over the United States and even out of the country to mechanic on machines. And they have little tricks, right? They got this stuff called honey. It's like an oil, but it's thick and tacky, and it will apply tension. You can also take a couple drops of oil, and that pack cloth will suck that oil up. When your bobbin starts getting low, it will also untension and do weird things, and it won't work like the top part of the bobbin when the bobbin's fresh. So on something like this, I'm going to go ahead and strip this off. See how under tension that thread was? Just from, because I wind them pretty tight on this, over here, you can adjust tension on this thing, and you can also adjust this screw here, and this will move this arm up and down so you can get more of a fill on your bobbin or less of a fill on your bobbin. You can also adjust drag a lot of times. So fresh bobbin, and now it will tension a little different. Those are all tricks that you can use. Now you guys have YouTube. We didn't. It was a mystery for 20 years to us. We worked on machines that truly were broken and missing parts for decades before I even knew that there was supposed to even be a part there. Like a lot of machines, when you get a new machine, there's a little eyelet right here that's not on this machine. There's all kinds of stuff that's just, we just made the machines work. Just get good at changing thread when you break thread, and if you get good at that, you're never going to care about the other. But if you don't know how to make that broken machine work, you're really going to be fucked when your machine really breaks. I find a lot of times too, mechanics will want to just put a new part in. That's great. When we started, for the first 5, 6, 10 years even, we were renting a sewing machine for $25. And that was a single needle lightweight machine, a 130E. Whereas I should have had a walking foot, but that was $50 a month. So I never did pay that excess. Now we're talking, 35 years ago, as a dumb young kid. So if you can make the machine finesse it, a lot of mechanics want to put a new part in, whereas a lot of times when I start breaking thread or something happens, I continue to sew and it smooths itself out and the problem goes away. Whereas if you have a mechanic put a new part in, a lot of times they're just in a hurry to get back out the door, so they don't smooth and tune all the other parts to the new part. Become friends with a mechanic or become a mechanic yourself. Everything is on YouTube. If you figure that out, all the answers are there. So far, every time I've stopped a line, I have clipped the thread and separated. Here, I'm going to go ahead and just leave it connected, travel down. I'm going to pull out much more than I need because when I start sewing, it's going to pull part of it back in. I know. Dudes are like, man, if you just had a bar tacker. I know. If you just had a programmable, I know. For kids learning to do this, we seem to have conversations a lot. Guys are like, what do you think of this machine or that machine? Or what do you think of the Sailrite? Why are you buying the Sailrite? Why don't you just go, and whatever, Sailrite's cool. I like those guys. Just go buy you an actual machine. They're everywhere. Okay, now I'll come over here. And I totally just fucked myself too. I'll show you why. We used to have a guy in Oceanside, all he would do is clip these threads. Literally, all day long. We called him Greasy Jesus. He looked like Jesus. He was super oily, Mexican dude, and he had that like super long cocaine finger. He didn't move like he did cocaine. I don't think he did, but so I forgot to put this on. I should have been doing this in the same row, but fucked that up. So whoever gets this will also probably notice that this top piece, the lines don't connect down. Just because I'm not traveling there, I could make it look the same, but whatever. Now this, I don't want them to try to jam shit through this column, so I'm going to close this column because it's only half of a channel there. Channel, column, you guys figure it out, whatever you want it to be. Call them what you want. What you want.
I don't know if I like you being mic'd up because I don't know if I can hear myself in there.
I hear yourself.
That's all that matters.
I talk to yourself a lot.
When I'm not here.
I'm like, shit, what do I need to tell Brandel? So I have a conversation, and in my head, your side of the conversation actually has your voice to it. So I have the conversation to commit it to memory so I remember to say it to you. All right, there's one. Padow. Should we do the other one? Or should we leave it to wonderment? Let's go ahead and, this is the back panel. Yeah, do I not have, I know I cut opposite pieces, I just don't know. That's what happens when you cut these at like 3 in the morning. All right, you all know how to put zippers on because I've shown you 100 times. These are going to be matched pieces. So I'm going to go ahead now and attach this one to the opposite side while I've got them before I separate it. Is that loud? I feel like it's loud.
I don't know.
I feel like I should probably have worn hearing protection for the last.
Probably.
See, I can just walk this right in. That needle's down. Well, clamps down the foot. And I can just walk it right in where I want it to be. Add some tension, it'll hold it nice and straight. Now I'll just separate it because I hate to. Actually, I don't want to cut that. You'll see why in a minute. I don't want to cut that excess off because I'm on a curve here. Let's get these threads out of here. Machine sounds a little dry.
Lube her up.
Yeah. With the Coyote on, it'll drip and you'll see the oil on the material.
So you usually have to put drops and then run it on something dark, or just run it?
Yeah,
on
or just run it and then wipe it off with paper towels or whatever. Okay, so this is the back piece of the panel. It's a zipper pocket that makes the whole panel a pocket. I want this to close, zipper down, just because gravity will generally keep this zipper down, so that's how I've always done these. Man, perfect. Imagine that. Yeah.
I would have never thunk.
Who'd have thought? Don't get discouraged when you start doing zippers. You'll get the hang of it. Once you can do it, you can always do it like riding a bicycle. They got all kinds of tools and all kinds of bullshit. You don't need any of it. Just learn how to fucking zip the zipper. It's like, well, I mean, I'm sure some of you still have training wheels on your bicycle, but most of you don't. So it's like that. Okay, so I'm going to cut and follow this curve. That's why I wanted these zipped together even, so I didn't have to try to clock them and make it even down at the bottom, so I didn't cut these off yet. So cutting through that zipper, watch your scissors. I have several sets of scissors. I like this big handle here, and I like the leverage here. I can go through thick things. I can cut right to that zipper, and then I can slow down and deliberately chomp through those. Why would we do that? Because if you're clocked wrong and that thing breaks through there and closes those, you're going to cut something else. So be aware of that. It sucks when you're almost done and you're going to cut something off and you end up cutting part of the real work. You can't really put it back on at that point. My zippers, I'm going to edge tape this. You're not going to see any of this, but you notice I did tack these. You have to decide with your lifetime warranty or whatever on your stuff, is that of importance to you? I've never seen it bust past edge tape, like with a single liner, you know, doubled or tripled in there. but I still tack these things. Early days, we were doing modifications to gear. We didn't really see zippers fail. Every now and then we'd see something come in with a zipper that had to be replaced or whatever. But when we'd go to take it apart, a lot of the competitors we were doing, like the big name companies in the past, they had tacked their zippers, and that was always difficult. Now, the answer is get you a pack. They come in 50 or 100 razor blades. These are disposable, right? You're not going to go and sharpen these. When it gets dull, put it in the trash, just slide you another one out. These are consumables. And all you need to do is just nick those threads, even on the top here. Like if I needed to take this out with a fresh razor blade, I could just barely touch these or an X-Acto knife, and that thread would come right out. The most damage I've done to myself building any of this stuff is slipping. Like I had a Bianchi holster, and the Bianchi holsters had like cardboard and foam in them with like ballistic nylon over them, and they were glued together. And I was modifying it for this dude, and I sliced my knuckle open. I've had stitches here, I've had stitches here, I've had all over my hands. I've had multiple sets, and it's always from fixing, it's from modifying gear. So a lot of guys will do that because they're not sure of their craftsmanship in the beginning. They feel like they have to take on all those jobs. I promise you, you're not charging enough for that work. And once you cut yourself, you're out of the game for 4 or 5 weeks with sutures in your hands. And I know, you're like, whatever, I can do it. I know, I did too. And then when they took the stitches out, 15 days, 10 days, whatever it was, the wound wasn't healed, right? I even had a splint here, and I had my finger all braced. And when we took that shit out of there, the wound was completely open. That's a whole nother story. But you're out of the game when you cut yourself. I promise you, you are not charging enough to do modifications for people. People do that shit because they feel like they're not good enough and they have to take all that work. And if you are taking that work, whatever you do you, I promise you are not charging enough for that type of work. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this tape on here. I edge taped for, I bet 5 years without an edge taper. I didn't know it exists. This is a binder, right? This is a cheap one. It costs like 35 bucks off Amazon. It's just a straight binder. You can use a right angle. I'm sure there are a lot of attachments that will help your game. This is literally the binding attachment that I've used. I'll bet this one's 20 years old probably. The wings break. They usually come with like a plate here. That doesn't last very long. It gets broke off. I would take and hold this in half and just crease it on the edge of a sewing machine. I have some gym equipment in the other building that was like square tubing, and I have creased so much webbing that the metal is rounded on there. Get you an edge taper. Learn how to use the edge taper. Get you a nice small flat screwdriver. You can even sharpen it if you want. I've got this one. Bugs the shit out of me. These are perfect. They used to make some that were like heavy, like anodized aluminum, or not anodized, but like real gnarled aluminum, and they were made for edge taping. I haven't seen one of those in forever. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock a couple lines of stitch, and you can stitch also. You can adjust this edger to where you stitch on the inside or the outside, however you want, if you're not running a double needle machine. I'm going to stitch all the way in, and I'm just kind of, even though there's a curve here, I am looking at this as a straight piece of work. And then when I catch where that curve's going to be, I'm going to move this and look at it as another almost like 1 inch of work. Needle strike down, bring my work out, place my work back in the bite in that crease. Gotta have the. Now let me show you what this looks like full speed. Here's the curve. I'm just kind of pulling a little tension, and I'm rotating my hand as I run. Here's into the webbing. I normally burn all of my webbing. I didn't this. You're going to have a 1/2 inch tape over it concealing it. I'm also going to throw another line of stitching in here. While I have this on, I'm going to go ahead and edge up this piece, which mates to that. Well, it's going to go back to back really. Go ahead and get a couple lines of stitching in there. And this one I'm going to sew the opposite. You can sew it this way if you want, but I like to have, when I hit this, I like to have my zipper up. I like to have the bulk or the roundness on top instead of the bottom. You do whatever you want to do. Now I'm nearing that zipper. I'm going to slow down, make sure I'm pushed into the bite, and it's going to want to move where my foot goes. So I'm just taking a couple bites, lifting the presser foot a little, a couple more bites, because I want to be in there nice and clean over that zipper, and I don't want to hit that zipper track and deflect the needle and do anything weird. Okay, now we're back in the game. I also don't want to push the work in so far that it like curls the work over. All right, there we go. I just have a 00 grommet washer and grommet, and that I ran through the press, and it's just a standoff, right? Instead of using a couple washers or whatever on these, and I just put it back in that extra hole that's not used there, and that's where that lives. Now, got a dead spot in these further back. That's why I'm cutting on the tip. Your scissors, you can get some Fisker scissor sharpeners. They work pretty good. You can also take some aluminum foil, fold it in half a few times, 6, 7, 8 layers, and just slice through it, and that'll knock most of the burrs off of there. It'll kind of sharpen your scissors for you. I got a spot here. Can you see it? I got a spot right here. It's almost off the edge there. It's just barely on some fibers. So I'm going to come back in right here, tack that in, and come right back inside that stitch lane. And I'm just going to run it out rather than cut it. So catch it. Yeah, I caught it here. I didn't catch it right here, but you're never going to see that. It's up inside the bite. Nobody's going to know. Let's do the same thing here. Now I'm going to come up to the edge right here, and I'm going to tack this edge tape over this PALS webbing here, this 1-inch web. 1, 2, 3, because that's what's going to catch, right? If I just sew this with one, even though this is tacked in underneath this edge tape, I'm in effect making a new line here. So if it gets a lot of pull on that and you break a stitch, that line might come out of there. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to tack that in there because your customer will see it, and even though you know it ain't coming out of there, they'll want to warranty it. So little forward backwards will alleviate any future problems 10 years from now. Now, I put this vertical on first. This is the main adjustment piece, and then I put the PALS webbing over it, and then I edge tape it. Now I'm going to come back, because I don't want to sew through both of these, right? So that's how I had to build this, because I want this panel to be a pocket, because in this pocket they can put foam in here, and what that foam does, it does a couple things. It will help add buoyancy to this should you want it. You can put flat items in here, comm charts, power bars, maps, whatever. But with the foam, then you can use whatever foam you want, closed cell, as rigid or stiff as you want, but it adds buoyancy in the water. So You can add more foam, less foam. But what it also does is it makes this panel semi-rigid. And when I have the belt loops on here, and I've got the mag pouches, and this is all put together almost like a jacket in LBV, it will transfer the weight on the panel because it's rigid to the belt. It takes the weight off of the shoulders and puts the weight on the waist like a proper rucksack or backpack does. Just a little feature we've done forever. It works very well. So I'm going to go ahead and tack this down now. I'm going to start, see, I just traveled across here so I didn't have to cut this. This stitch line here does nothing, or it's not for anything. I'm going to tack this in. I'm going to run up here, and now I'm just going to follow this line here around, and I'm going to back it up, and I'm going to tack it back in. So I got 3 there. I'm going to come down about even, so it looks just however you want to do it, right? You want to do it 7 stitches, 5 stitches, whatever. I'm stitching right now probably 7 stitches per inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 stitches per inch. But when you sew backwards, at least on this machine, when I sew backwards, it's more stitch. The stitches are a little smaller. So now I'm going to just run down here, tack it back in even where I started and stopped. Now what is that? So I've got the leading edge. What is the leading edge? The leading edge catches all the brunt, right? So I've got 3 lines of stitching here. And then I X'd over and I put 3 lines of stitching here. So if this were to come off, you've got another line of stitching here. You can do 5, you can do 10, do whatever the fuck you want to do. But that's what that is. So now I'm going to put these on there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this very rigid scuba webbing, which is what we used to put on there, and we would slot this, and you would have dual pistol mags or a utility pocket that you could put there, and you would set this to that, and there'd be slots on the back webbing. On the same webbing would be on the back of the pouch, and you'd zip tie these or 550 cord them in place. Now I make the channels 1.5 inches wide, and you can still 550 cord, zip tie, whatever, or malice clip, or tack ties, or whatever thing you bought, or whatever your proprietary thing's going to be for your company. And if you caught that, it sounded like it was sewing kind of weird. My suspicion is that this is low on oh, there we go. See, this is what was doing weird, right? So I didn't rip that tail off, and the machine is trying to pick the tail up instead of the actual thread out of the bobbin. That's why it was acting weird. So I'm towards the end. It's all rat nested up in there under tension. See? Can you see it on the camera? See how it's like a spring? You're fighting that at once. So I'm going to go ahead and rip the end of this bobbin out of here. And now I'm going to go find the bobbin. You can also, when you drop these bobbins, you can bend them also. So a lot of guys buy bobbins, you know, 1, 2 bobbins at a time off Amazon or whatever. You can buy them from Collier, you can buy them wherever. You can find them on eBay. Bobbins aren't too particular. You can buy a box of 100 bobbins for like 30 bucks or so. I mean, they might be more now, but you can also buy nickel bobbins, so they're like chrome, or you can get black ones. We have machines. This is a Consew 206. I've probably got a dozen of them at least out there. Some of the machines run better on the nickel, some run better on the black. Just try it, see what your machine runs on. Whatever it likes, use that. Now, this isn't tensioned like I would like it to be, so I'm going to go ahead and sew back over this so that I don't have any. The truth is, this would probably never come off of here. We built a lot of prototype bags for ourselves. One that particularly stands out is we made Super Kit bags. It's a very big bag. It's like a kit bag, an aviator kit bag, but much bigger. And it's got Type 13 handles, which is what's in a parachute pack tray. It's what we build some of our belts out of. We built these bags, and we would load them up, and they would have about 85 pounds of gear when we would travel to like SHOT Show in Vegas. We would fly. I remember them being 85 because the cutoff was 75 on Southwestern years ago, and we paid overage. Then the last time we went, which was years ago, the cutoff was 60 pounds, same bag. Anyways, we had 70, 80 pounds in these bags. We took them out to Vegas. We had 3 of them. It was the first time we took them. Those bags were all single stitched. I used to take all the new bags and we'd take them and run around, give them to friends. Those bags were all single stitched. We wanted to see what they would do. Flew to Vegas, 70, 80 pounds of gear. We're on the 3rd floor of a condo where we were staying. We had an after party, a private party and shit. Myself, Jaeger, a couple other dudes, we took those bags, one guy on each side, and we threw them as high in the air as we can, out, off the balcony, onto the concrete, the asphalt in Vegas. Single stitch, those bags never came apart. They weren't edge taped inside, nothing. Literally true single line of stitching. At the start and stop, they were tacked. We never saw them come apart. So to tack all this down like this, it probably doesn't matter, but you're gonna take a piece of my equipment, you're going to have died of old age, and your grandchildren in the future you've never met will still use that gear. It's true heirloom quality equipment. As soon as AI and ChatGPT takes over and starts hunting humans, you're going to be able to go to the UDT SEAL Museum and break the glass window and pull some of this kit off a mannequin. And before you travel back in past to try to stop the AI and ChatGPT, you're going to be able to use that piece of kit that's like 100 years old that I made. Now this here, I'm just going to tack it in here. You might want to measure. I mean, I have a calibrated eye. You don't see it. I have a little goldfish in this eye swimming around, and then I have a crosshair reticle. I had a Premier elliptical mil dots put in. That's 4 this way, not true dots, but actual ovals. So I have a calibrated eye. You might not have that, so you might want to measure this on yours. Now I'm just going to tack, I'm going to sew this here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then tack it in a few stitches right here. Man, I hope I get this straight after all that. Looks pretty straight. What do you think? Straight?
Really straight.
Yeah, the straightest. Huh?
David Hasselhoff.
Oh yeah, Germans love David Hasselhoff. I forgot to pull that tail off of here again. Yeah, I caught it. Let's cut that off of there. That way we don't have to fight that again. All right, now I'm gonna come from that stitch line. I'm gonna come 1.5 inch in. Boom. 1.5, boom. I don't know if you guys hear the boom sound. I actually hear the boom, so. Keep your finger out of the tip of your scissors, especially with light colored material. It's not that it hurts, it's just that your blood falls out and it gets on the material. Your guts will fall out. Okay, so there's that. Here's this. I'm gonna go ahead and put my attachment points on here. I think I'm going to. I brought a bucket out here, maybe. Yeah, here it is.
Left on the camera.
12%?
Yep.
Ooh. You want to just cut it off for a minute and we'll just show them like in a couple steps. Do you have another battery?
No. It
Okay.
was in my case.
Okay. I somehow didn't get these pieces cut, but I know that they are 3.5 inches. These are the adapters that go to the back panel from the side of the vest. This vest panel here is the right side? Yeah, right side. I'm gonna be looking for that in a minute. I don't know why I just put it over there. So these here, I'm gonna go just like these. These are Tri-Glides. It's the best, believe it, everybody knows it. We're gonna fold this over. Now, I'm gonna sew this through this same stitch line right here. And I'm gonna go right here, because I want this to be able to adjust down. I'm a medium-sized shirt. I don't know what size jacket I wear anymore. My muscles are very, very impressive though, so. I'm gonna sew another stitch line just right next to this. And just so that it backs up that if we somehow had a problem with that first stitch line ever in the future, which I've never seen happen, I've got a second one next to it, but it's not wide enough that it's gonna affect that PALS channel for putting gear on there. Most guys are never gonna use this back piece anyways, but it's there should we ever want to use it. Oh yeah, I knew when I had it over there, but I happen to have that one too. I've got multiple lighters here. They come in packs of 50. Dudes are like, you should use a candle. I'm like, shut the fuck up. You know who says you should use a candle? The motherfucker that's never used a Bic lighter. They have these, I bought one. They're actually pretty cool. They've got this little thing, it's battery, and it heats up and actually melts and turns your little pieces of thread into smoke. It works pretty good. It's still not as fast as just fucking using the Bic lighter. If you would, guys, like we had a kid come here to work and he was on the clip and clean table, right? Which means he's using scissors and a lighter. And he literally could not, well, you saw him. He couldn't use the Bic lighter. He had no idea how to, he's like trying to throw the flame out, and that didn't even have the child-proof thing. Like we popped those off. But at the end of the day, like we've had, I'll bet I've had 20 dudes in here over the years that will come to work after being here a day or two with Band-Aids on their fingers, because their fingers are literally bleeding, you know, from, because like, fuck man, as a child, I would walk around with a black thumb from just, I didn't smoke or nothing. I just fucking, every kid likes to play with fire. And nowadays, fucking kids like, and I say kid, I'm talking about like 25-year-old men, you know, boys, grown adults, and they don't know how to run a lighter. What the fuck is wrong with you guys? Okay, so there's that. That's the attachment points there. I'm gonna go ahead and sew. I feel like I'm missing something, but I'm gonna go ahead and sew this on here. I'm gonna line this piece up right here, tack it in a couple, and I'm gonna get just past this zipper right here. Okay, I'm past the zipper. Now I'm gonna look at the end. Now see how I'm short? It's just short. So I'm gonna just keep sewing, but I'm gonna hold the bottom edge here under tension as I'm sewing. Now it's almost even. I'm gonna do that just a little bit more. And now it actually matches up. So I'm gonna line these up and then pull them both together. And somehow it's perfect.
Somehow.
I can't not sear these edges even though I'm going to conceal them. I'm gonna, oh, and it's bothering me. I'll think about it tonight at like 3 in the morning.
You'll be talking to me about it in your sleep at 3. Right up.
I'll message you. I'll wake up. Like, did we burn that?
Did we burn those edges?
Now, these don't really match up. Can you see it in the camera, how this one's overlap?
Yeah.
But we're gonna pretend that that's not there. We're gonna line them up, 1/2 inch, inch at a time. Needle strike that in there. And then we're gonna just move this to where it is perfect. Tack that a little. I'm gonna come back and actually put some more tacks on those. Okay, so we're pretty close there. This is puckered up a little bit. I'm just going to do the same. I'm going to continue just in the same direction. I'm going to tack this way, and then I'm going to come back and tack it this way so it's like a little X right there. I don't know that you need an X. I just have always done that. Now, you can do whatever you want with yours. I run mine right here kind of square, and this is a channel right here. And we've seen guys over the years run cording in one side, out the other side, run junction boxes inside the panels and stuff. So we've always just kind of left those open right there and not been concerned with closing them up. I'm going to get out of this curve here, needle strike to hold it, and I'm just going to make sure this is out of the way because your needle will punch through this thing. It's not good for the needle. There's no real load bearing or anything to this line right here, but I always put 2 or 3 lines when I'm closing these panels up for real. So go ahead and catch the other half of that X that I didn't get right there. Go ahead and throw back across here. I always loop this out so I have a big loop to grab when I go to have to cut these threads off of here. We are almost out of battery, and we do not have another battery for this camera. So if this video abruptly shuts off,
We love you.
he loves you. I don't. I actually hate most of you. I'm going to have, this is this side, so this is the piece with the 12-inch strap. This piece will have the clips, the female. So you would have a strap here, a strap here, a strap here. You would have a strap here that goes to the camelback. You'd have 2 belt loops here. But we're not quite there yet. I'm going to go ahead and edge tape this now. I'm going to burn this. Can't have that fuzz. Can't have the fuzz of the zipper. Really bothers me right there. Now, there's a few ways you can do this. In the old days, I would have done it the super fucking hard way. And I would have done this as all one piece. I would have made 90-degree angles and used my, used the tip of my screwdriver to make this do this, right? They got a thing called a 90-degree binder all these years. I imagine if I'd have learned how to use that. You could get one. Tennessee Attachments. You can get a binder, and I know they're like $600 for a binder. Holy fuck, it would save you years of your life if you just got the fucking binder made. So here's what I'm going to do, because I'm starting here at this edge. I'm going to actually fold this over right here. You could start it long and then take, you know, just start it raw, and then you could just fold this over and conceal it on the back side. Or you can fold it over and conceal that second layer to the inside. Just line it up, you know, get it pretty close. Now, when you're doing this, if you're not really good at this, don't tack it at the beginning. Just sew it, just like so. Why would we do that? Because if you don't have it perfect, my attachment's also not tight. If you don't have it perfect, it's only a single line of stitch that you got to cut out, and then you can maneuver it by hand and then restitch it. And if it is perfect, you can just go back in and tack it at the beginning right there. Now, coming down here, you could try to make that angle, right? My needle's down, needle's down. I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to pull this piece up here, and I'm going to hold this piece down here, and I'm going to pivot. And I know some of you guys can do this really well, right? So that's how you would do that. You can practice it. I'm going to cut mine off. I'm going to burn all that while I have it, because these threads are driving me fucking nuts right here. I'm going to go ahead and burn those off. You're going to be amazed to know that this is actually fucking perfect right here. I'm going to go ahead and sear this edge. We're going to do the exact same thing we just did on a smaller run right here. I'm going to tip this in here with a screwdriver. You can sharpen your screwdriver. Make it super sharp on the pointy corner, and you'll be able to pull edge tape right through there. So this here, and you don't have to get it between, like I've got 2 layers here, 2 layers here. You could actually put this sucker between the top 2 layers, and it'll go right into the bite. Nobody will know that it's like that, and then it'll just stop when you're there, so it'll be perfect. And again, you don't have to tack it right now. You're going to come back. You can tack it once you're there. Now I'm about a 1/2 inch away right here. I'm going to terminate this tape, probably 1.5 inches. I'm going to sear this, and now I'm going to take this and kind of put it right back into place, close to where I want it. Now, when you're sewing, it's going to want to unfold it a little bit and pull it out a little long. I'm right here. I'm going to just a grain or two at a time. By what I mean by a grain, if you look at this material, there's lines in it. You can actually hear it. Listen. Those are the grains. Your webbing has it too. So I'm going to move this a grain or two. It's perfect.
Of course it is.
Sometimes it's not. Like maybe once a year.
Once every 10 years?
Once every century.
45%.
If you're a vampire.
Is that a vampire that cries?
A vampire? Called a wambulance. All right, so let's go ahead and tack this in. Back this up here. And go ahead and tack this on these PALS webbings here. While we're here and connected, because I hate to cut the thread, I'm going to flip it. Did I catch all of this? I'm off just a little bit right here. Man, this is really in my way. So this is a panel for an LBV, one side, one panel. Maybe next week we'll show you how to build the back panel, and then the following week we'll show you how to build the shoulder set. Or I'll completely forget and we'll never show you the rest of it, I don't know. This right here, we'll go ahead and sew this on here. This is the part that's going to go on the back end of this that will run into our hydro carrier. Our hydro carrier has straps that you route through the shoulder set, clip it in, it hangs down, and then it has clips on the side. So while your hydro carrier hangs down, this pulls it to both sides and makes the hydro carrier super stable. With the LBV, it is designed to clip in and integrate with our butt pack and our hydro carrier. And with the butt pack, depending on how you have it adjusted, you can put a proper day pack, 3-day bag on top, and the butt pack actually kind of works as a shelf and supports part of the weight of the backpack also. And then there's 2 belt loops that go on there and 3 more clips, but you get the idea, and this camera's dead. Leave us some comments if you like these videos. I do a live on YouTube every night at 9 o'clock. You can jump on and we can talk sewing, we can talk business, we can talk lifestyle design, we can talk gardening, goats, sheep, whatever you want to talk about, man. Cars, whatever. And then I've got Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, MeWe, Locals Float, Getter, and True Social. That's a long sentence. But I'm on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. And join us, interact, and let us know that you were here.